A new view of reality. A new view of reality. How you, me, and the world can awaken. By Stefan Cockroft. Chapter 1. Have we been brainwashed? Quote 1. Every adventure requires a first step. Lewis Carroll, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Quote 2. Question everything generally thought to be obvious. Dieter Rams. From the moment each of us enter this world, we start being taught things by our parents and by others around us. And then, when we're old enough, we go to school. And there we're constantly told how things are or how we ought to see reality. Then, as we grow older and we become increasingly social, we're progressively exposed to the influences of forces such as cultural institutions, educational institutions, commerce, politics, the news and entertainment media, and of course social media, and then career and workplace cultures. So, over time, we're increasingly conditioned as to how we ought to view things. We may not have even given it much thought that this is what has happened to us. We might instead assume that the way we've come to see reality is because that is the only way that reality can be seen to be. It might not have even dawned on us that there could be another fundamentally different way of perceiving reality that is as feasible or even more feasible than what we've been taught is correct. Of course, none of us see things exactly the same. For example, some of us might have been raised in religious homes, and such views have influenced how we see the world. For others of us, we might be more conscious of diverse perspectives on life, and throughout our lives there have been times when we have altered our point of view on not just everyday matters, but also on more fundamental aspects of things relating to life and reality. Yet, despite this, we may still feel that we actually merely tagged our new beliefs or ideas onto the view of reality that we already had, or sort of rearranged our thinking to make the new things fit, rather than radically altering our core thinking about existence itself. If we really want to be open to developing a fundamentally new view of reality, then we need to be prepared to examine and question our deepest or most basic assumptions about the nature of existence. And so, without more ado, that is what we're going to start doing right now. We're going to begin by looking at the three main views that exist on the nature of reality itself. Ready? Let's go. Chapter 2. Introducing the three views of existence. Beginning with dualism. Once upon a time, there were three views of reality. Once upon a time, there were 3 bears. And you'll recall that there were also 3 little pigs. And so too there were and are 3 views of reality. That's to say, academic philosophy presents us with 3 main views of the nature of existence. There are a number of variations of those 3 views, but I believe that they can all be reduced to just 3 core ones. Those views are called dualism, materialism, and idealism. Easy as 1, 2, 3. Introducing dualism. 2 little dicky birds sitting on a wall, one named Peter, one named Paul. The first view is called dualism. Dualism describes how many people in Western cultures tend to think of reality as working when they're going about their everyday lives, when they're not giving the issue much thought. The thinking goes along these lines. Each of us has thoughts and feelings. Each of us has a body. We all live in a physical world, and broadly speaking, the mechanics of all this seem to tick along fine. Somehow, the diverse phenomena of thoughts, feelings, and the physical world seem to function together okay, and that's all that really matters. However, if we look at the situation a little more deeply, the idea of dualism is that reality or existence is made up of 2 main things, or 2 main substances, Dual, of course, meaning of two. Those two substances are the physical and the non-physical. What represents the physical is fairly obvious. Generally, it's things made of matter. Non-physical things, on the other hand, are things like thoughts, minds, emotions, consciousness, awareness, and ideas. A loose way to think about the difference between the physical and the non-physical is that physical things tend to be visible and non-physical things tend to be invisible. Although this isn't strictly always true, because physical forces are clearly physical, yet they are invisible. But I still think the visible-invisible rule of thumb is a useful way of thinking about the physical and the non-physical, as long as we keep in mind that there are exceptions to this rule. Dualists argue that those two substances that make up the entirety of existence, the physical and the non-physical, interact with each other. So, for example, if I fall over and knock my arm, I feel pain. The physical injury to my arm apparently causes me to experience something non-physical, a feeling of pain. Like I said, most people accept that these two physical and non-physical factors seem to function together, and so there's not a problem. That's as long as we don't stop and critically examine the notion of dualism. A closer look at dualism. If we take a closer look at dualism, we find that there are actually big problems with it. Big problems in that dualism is actually completely illogical and makes no sense. Why is that? Well, this is the crux of the matter, so listen up. The physical and the non-physical are completely different substances. Substances might seem like an odd term to use here, but that has been the traditional usage of language in philosophy. Being of different substances, the physical and the non-physical are completely different in nature and have totally different properties. Physical things exist in physical locations in space and time, and they have physical attributes that can be measured in terms of physical size. Non-physical things like feelings, emotions, thoughts, and minds don't have physical locations, and they have no physical size. Keep in mind here that minds are not the same thing as brains. Thus, because they are so completely different, it doesn't make any sense that the physical and the non-physical could or would relate to one another or interact with each other. When we look at our world through dualist eyes, it generally seems to be functioning fine without any problems. But when we stop and think about what is actually meant to be going on in dualist terms, we realize that we're supposedly witnessing laws at work that make no reasonable sense, and consequently, the world as we believe it to be is actually defying the laws of logic. A comparison with dualism might be something like two people trying to have a phone conversation in two different languages, with neither understanding the other. In short, the communication isn't going to work.
What did you say?
Another analogy might be trying to run Windows-only software on an Apple computer. It wouldn't work, because they involve two different computer languages. And on the level of fundamental reality, logically speaking, the physical and the non-physical shouldn't be able to communicate with each other or impact or influence each other in any way, because they are two totally different fundamental substances, and so their natures have nothing in common on which a relationship can be based. And I mean absolutely nothing in common. They are complete opposites. In theory, they shouldn't be able to connect with each other or relate with each other in any way. So what's going on? On an everyday level, it certainly does seem that the physical and the non-physical are interacting with each other. But if dualism is an illogical explanation for what's happening here, then we need to come up with an alternative explanation for what appears to be taking place. And a clue to this might be in the word appears, because as we know, appearances can be deceptive. I hope you've enjoyed hearing the opening chapters of my book. To buy a full copy, please visit stefancockroft.com or amazon.com and search for the title, A New View of Reality, How You, Me and the World Can Awaken.